Michael, I don't suppose you're any different than I am in hoping that we can somehow live beyond our mortality, which as we get older becomes more and more obvious. Do you think there's a chance?
Well, I mean, first of all, I share your hope and so on and desire, right? In fact, I'd like to live forever. Not everyone agrees with that. I had a colleague who once said that maybe 500 years would be okay, but anything beyond that would be far too much. But I think I could find things to do on and on. But unfortunately, I think it's very unlikely that any such scenario was the case.
And yet, the vast majority of human beings throughout all history have believed in some kind of afterlife. They all differ, they all conflict with each other, but at their core, there is this fervent hope and feeling and belief
Yes, indeed.
that there is an afterlife.
Okay, so, but I think there are sort of two main reasons that people have for thinking there's an afterlife. One is that they think that the mind, so to speak, is a soul, is an immaterial thing, right? And so they think it's a sort of thing that won't be harmed when the body gets destroyed, right? But on the other hand, I mean, if you take classes in psychology at universities and so on, you don't find a very vibrant belief in the existence of any sort of immaterial mind, okay, right? I think there's good reason for thinking that immaterial minds don't exist based upon the effects of brain damage and drugs and so on.
Sure.
The other main reason I think that Robert, that people believe in an afterlife is they think there is a being, so to speak, who's very powerful and very knowledgeable and very good, God, who's going to ensure that we live on forever. And even if we don't have a soul, he's going to, so to speak, collect together the parts of our bodies and resurrect us, okay, right? And the problem there is that I think that things like the argument from evil, for example, provide good reasons for thinking that there is no such being. So I think that the two main reasons people have are reasons that, so to speak, unfortunately can be set aside.
One argument, emotional as it is, would be something like, isn't it unlikely that beings who can consider their mortality, who have the self-awareness of their heading towards non-existence, because we have that, there's an emotional feeling that we should be able to exemplify that hope?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty common sort of feeling and so on. But I think there are a variety of reasons for thinking that it's mistaken. I mean, one is that I think there's excellent reason for believing that you and I and so on, humans in general, were not specially created, okay, right? That we have evolved, et cetera. And so I think that when you look at lower animals and you look at the evolution from lower animals up to human beings, et cetera, I don't think there's good reason for thinking that we're going to differ in some sort of striking way from them, et cetera. So,
hey, have the animals all come along with us. As long as I'm there, they can be there too.
Yeah, some theologians believe that animals will come along with us. But again, that's based in general upon the idea that, you know, animals have, so to speak, souls, not as sort of rich and full and exciting as ours, but, you know, they have sort of mini souls, etc. And I think that, again, there's no good reason for thinking that that's true of animals, okay? And so I think it's very unlikely that there's an afterlife in store for our favorite pet, unfortunately.
There are many arguments about afterlife. There's spiritism, there's revelation, so much of this stuff. Do you discount all of it?
Yes, in the final analysis, right? I mean, I don't immediately discount it, right? I mean, I think it needs to be carefully investigated. But, I mean, the thing is that if you look at spiritualism and so on, right, there's an enormous amount of fraud, right? Some of it was investigated by Houdini, and so he's very interested in this, right? And,
but you don't have to have 100, you know, you don't have to have 51% being true and 49 not. You just need 1% to be true. All the rest can be fraud and illusion and delusion and wishful thinking and whatever you want. The question is any single event true? Because if one is true, then there's another kind of existence.
Well, I think there have been spectacular cases, I think, involving the Fox sisters, which led to the growth of spiritualism in the 1800s and so on. And essentially, they were successful in deluding people for a long period of time, but ultimately was found out how they did the trick and so on, right? And when you have careful investigation, it's crucial that careful investigation be done by a committee that involves magicians, right? And you've had investigation by scientists where scientists were convinced that someone definitely was a medium, had spiritualistic powers, okay, right? And then a magician such as Houdini or James Randi is brought in, right? And it's quickly found out what's going on, et cetera, right? And so
magicians like to say that scientists are the easiest people to fool.
Yes, I think that's absolutely right, because they're used to dealing with nature, and nature isn't out to trick them and so on. So they don't do well when they're dealing with people who are attempting to trick them and so on. So I just think that, cases that have been carefully investigated just don't stand up to examination. James Randi, I know it's true now, used to offer $100,000 to anyone who can demonstrate, genuine paranormal effects, right? And no one has ever collected on that.